Hello BookTube, welcome to my channel. My name is Chrissy. I'm finally doing my wrap-up for February. It's only almost halfway through March. Admittedly, one of the reasons why I kind of held off doing my TBR is because I joined two readathons, that was Valentines and Blackathon, and I didn't do that great with the prompts. So I'm not really going to talk about the prompts while we go through this. Just know that those two readathons were actually really, really fun and great. I got to meet some amazing people, so when they come around again, I heavily encourage people to join in. And then I also did the BookTube games, which, I'm sorry, Team Dairy, I am a horrible teammate. I kept forgetting to put in my page numbers, and I'm pretty sure I read far more than I put in there, so my apologies. But now I'm going to talk about the books that I did read in February. I read 8 titles in February, so let's get started. The first book I read was The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hong. I read this in ebook format, and I buddy read this with Sasha from Well Read and Half Dead. I heavily suggest you go check out her channel. It was a very fun book. I even reviewed the romance in that book. I'll link that channel in the description below, as well as Sasha's channel down in the description below. But it was really great. It was cute. It was cute, and it fulfilled all my I need romance in my life kind of needs. So, and I'm not just talking about, like the hanky-panky wham bam thank you ma'am or horizontal tango. Not that in particular, but rather the actual feels. The I feel for you and you feel for me and that kind of thing going on. So it was a really great book to have for the month of love. By the way, I should probably, also talk about what the book is about. It's about this young woman Stella who thinks she is horrible in bed, and she happens to have a pretty good job to where that she can afford a pretty high-end escort named Michael. She hires Michael to teach her how to be good in bed and also about relationships, and they fall for each other throughout that. The next book I read is Sula by Toni Morrison, and it's about these two friends, Nell and Sula, and the town they grew up in, and really it's, I think, even more just than about their friendship. It's really about the town and the town's expectations of the people who live there. Sula goes off to college and Nell doesn't, and they both end up at very different places in their lives, but they both went through pretty harrowing events in their childhoods, and so it's about that community, it's about them, and it's about how they grew apart from each other and how eventually it all circles in on itself and their connection with one another. A very biting narrative from Toni Morrison, which is fabulous. It was just very surprising how intense it was throughout that whole book. But I liked it a lot. I think I will probably read more of Toni Morrison to see, how her other books go. There's a couple of her books that are named after characters in Sula, and I don't know if they're the same characters. I hope they are, but I'm going to be checking those out. The next book I read was The One and Only Ivan by Katherine Applegate, and I picked this up because I loved Katherine Applegate's Animorph series back when she did that, and I've been hearing a lot about this book. It's about a gorilla in this zoo in a mall, like this mall enclosure thing, sideshow, I don't know, but he's not really in a zoo, like he's not really in a full habitat. He's just in this cage, and he paints and draws, and the drawings are sold to the people. And then there's a baby elephant that comes in named Ruby, who he becomes friends with, and it's pretty much about their friendship, and it was pretty sad. It's a little heavy-handed, but I kind of expected that. It's not for adult readers. It's a mid-grade level book, so it is a bit heavy-handed in its message, but I think that's okay. I think that's a good thing. The next book I read is A Blade So Black by L.L. McKinney, and this was just an okay read for me. Like, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great in my eyes. I can see why people would like this book. It has a lot of action. The main character is a very strong person, both kind of mentally and physically. But for me, a lot of the scenes just lacked a certain subtlety, is what I want to say. I don't know. But I don't really know how to place it. But it felt more like a TV show episode. And that's not a bad thing. By all means, that can play really well in books, but for me in this novel, I wanted more of the world building, and what I mean by that is I want it more complete. It just didn't feel as in depth as I needed it to be for the world, but that's just me. And there is a bit of I think that's also one of the reasons why I just stuttered heavily there. But I didn't really like the relationship aspects of this. It just felt kind of forced and weird for me. Overall, as said, it was just okay. I'm probably not going to continue with the series, but I am glad I read it. The next book is A Flight of Broken Wings by Nupur Chowdhury, and this is a book about a kind of war going on between humans and Ariels, and the humans develop a new weapon in order to eradicate the Ariels, and the Ariels send someone out to steal the formula, and it's a lot of back and forth. There is a diplomat who comes in. His name is Ashwin, and he tries to help. He's kind of a little bit bumbling, but there's more to him than meets the eye, and he tries to figure out things with the formula. It's a pretty action-packed book. There's a lot of fight scenes, and one of the main issues I had with the book, but it wasn't too big, like it didn't knock it down like many stars or whatever, but one of the problems I had with this book was it kept repeating scenes. Like, so it'd go show a scene in Ruben, who is one of the main characters' point of views, but then it would, like, some of the same scene would be told in Ashwin's point of view. I just didn't feel that was necessary. But overall, I thought this was a pretty solid fantasy story, so I recommend people check it out. The next book I read is The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill, and this is a middle grade read, but did not read like a middle grade read as far as language, as far as how the sentences are structured. A lot of times middle grade books will, like the one and only Ivan, will either be heavy-handed or really kind of simplify things to an extreme point to reach those middle grade or younger audience. But Kelly Barnhill does an amazing job of writing in a way that I think will grip anyone of any age, and it's just a really good book. It's about this town who every year they sacrifice the youngest child of the village, so usually it's an infant, into the woods for a witch to take away. Now, the people who organize this, so the head council guys or whatever, the head elders, don't really think that there's a witch, but there happens to be a witch. But when she comes by, she always thinks that this child has just been abandoned and is unloved, and so she takes the children and she goes and finds them loving homes. Well, the newest edition that she picks up at the start of this book, she accidentally feeds Moonlight instead of Starlight. I guess Starlight really feeds babies very well, but she accidentally feeds this child Moonlight and essentially gives them magic powers, and it goes from there. Very well done storytelling, and I like this book a lot. Read it. The next book I read was a graphic novel, Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, Volume 1, and this was a really cute read. I read this on ebook, and I think that was a mistake. I read this through the Library Loan app, but I think I want to reread it in the physical form, so I'm going to have to save up money to buy a lot of graphic novels. It was cute. It was good. I want to reread it in the physical form because I think I'll be able to process that better. And yeah, it's about this girl who's very, very, very brilliant, and she is bored in school, so she's getting a lot of trouble like at home and at school because she gets bored and she doesn't like really pay attention in class because she knows all this stuff anyway, and she knows more complex problems. And Devil Dinosaur comes from the past, and they team up and, defeat villains. So, yeah. The Hulk makes an appearance in this issue, and it was really interesting because it was a version of the Hulk that I hadn't seen. Like, he wore board shorts, and he was a little less the studious person. I don't know. It was just kind of weird. He was a little bit more hip than I think the Hulk usually comes across in comic books, which I enjoyed. I enjoyed that a lot. The next book I read was Renegades, and I'm going to do a full review, so I'm not really going to talk about it here, but I did read it as part of the BookTube Buddy Reads for Team Dairy. Those are all the books I read this month, and if you've read any of those books, please comment down in... I always want to say, please comment down in the description below, but that's not where you comment. If you want to comment, though, that's awesome. Please do. If you like this video, please give it that thumbs up button. If you like seeing this face talk about books, hit that subscribe button. And as always, and forever, may you get lost in the book.